Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for July 14, 2021 to order. The time is now 7:10. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item C is our roll call of council members. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Beaton?
Here.
Councilmember Marksman?
Here.
Councilmember Perez?
Here.
Councilmember Hudson?
Here.
Councilmember Hulse?
Here.
Councilmember Molinar?
Here.
Councilmember Morales?
Present.
Thank you very much. In our consent agenda, we have items A, B, C, D, and E, which is minutes, payroll checks, wire transfers, claims, and some agreements.
I move the approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Second. Motion by Mark and a second by Mary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Under reports tonight, we have two committee reports. We'll start out with Development Services Committee, and that will be Councilmember Melissa Beaton. Melissa.
Thank you, Mayor. We had our last Development Services Committee meeting on June 16th. First, we discussed commercial and residential project updates. Director Phillips provided us with an update on two projects in our historic downtown right there on First Street. Then we talked about multiple projects up at the college. And then we discussed our Wisconsin site downtown, and we're looking at Wendy's and, of course, the Skagit Valley Hospital Medical Center coming in. And then we also talked about a few multi-residential projects on Taylor Street and 21st Street. And then council we talked about SmartGov, the portal parcel search demonstration discussion is what we had. And it was kind of a how-to. And so what this is it's basically the case management for the city's development services with all of their permitting that comes in and out of the department. And so we got a great overview, but what it gives everyone, and the city strives to be very transparent with all of its projects. And so if you're ever driving by and you see one of those pink signs and you are kind of interested in what that is, you can go to the city's website and you can log on to SmartGov and you can do a little research and you can find out what's going on and where the whole project is in that stage. So that's kind of cool. We've had some businesses where they've started and then it stopped, and so people have wondered, and so that's just something that is out there that anybody can take a look at. Then we talked about a request for an associate planner, and so we received the workflow analysis and justification for that. And later in the evening, it was presented on the June 23rd council, and that was approved. And then finally, we discussed affordable housing, and it was kind of just an impromptu discussion. And we talked about a variety of topics. Infill housing, that's where you have some unique pieces of property and they don't maybe fit in, and so how do we handle those? And so we talked about those, and we talked about what our sub-area plans are looking like, some possible code amendments with mixed use. And then as far as the mixed use goes, we do have the Hovey land and needs analysis that's coming up in August that's going out to bid, so we'll take a look at that. But the city's priority at the moment is the shoreline master plan, which needed to be done this year, and so that's kind of that's why the Hovey study is coming out here in August. After that, well, we adjourned at 8:37.
All right. Thank you very much. Under committee reports for Public Works and Library Committee, that's Councilmember Gary Molnar. Gary.
Thank you, Jill. We opened the meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. First up was Program Coordination Division. Blaine Chesterfield discussed the 2022 Washington Conservation Corp agreement that will be on our council agenda tonight for further discussion. Next, Bill Bollick gave some project updates. Bill discussed the Freeway Drive bid awards. It sounds like the bids came in lower than expected, which is a great thing. And then also talked about the sole source procurement for the wastewater treatment plant that will also be on our agenda tonight. After that, we had a little good of the order discussion. Jill talked about the American Rescue Plan Act and how that will affect our city. The appropriations will be $4.1 million for the recovery of our city due to COVID. Examples where this money would be spent would be fiber optics, TV10, court systems, human resources, and also information services and technology, along with general facilities. Then we had a discussion from Aaron Keeter, our HR director, just going over a classification and compensation study that we're looking into for our employees. Some of the goals we would like to see come out of that would be properly classifying positions, determine a fair labor standards, establish competitive compensation, and adopt a system to effectively manage our classifications and compensation program into our future. And then we had a discussion with Chief Bryce and our chief, and also police chief Chris Kamick gave us statistics and on fires and fireworks calls related to the 4th of July weekend. And after that, we close the meeting at 7:02.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Next under reports is item B. It's our community comments. So if there's someone that would like to speak, we'll be welcoming you to the podium in a minute. Before that, though, I'll invite Peter Donovan. And our last agenda item, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, we allowed community comments through email electronically. So at this time, we did receive a few based on our last agenda announcing that. So I'll ask Peter if you'd read those comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Yes, there are 2 emails that were sent to City Council that were up for community comments tonight. The first one is from Alicia Parnell, and Alicia writes, I read the survey comments which seemed overwhelmingly in favor of banning personal fireworks. I see that the committee decided to increase the fines for illegal fireworks beginning 2022 rather than place a ban altogether. Do you know how many fines were issued this July 4th? How many fines were issued in my neighborhood? How does the fining process work? How do you get the information that someone broke the law and needs to be fined? Am I expected to turn in my neighbors who abuse this? Do I have to call the police every 4th of July and have them run out to all the houses and handle the fines? Do you expect us as individual citizens to go out into our neighborhoods on the 4th of July and knock on the doors of those abusing fireworks and ask them to kindly stop, or will report them? I appreciate that you all took the time to address this issue. Do you really think increased fines will solve the problem? What is the plan to enforce it? Thank you for your response. Alicia Parnell and Jay Lewis. Second letter sent to council is from Cody Hart. And Cody sent a letter with some attachments. I'll read the cover letter. Members of City Council, I'm writing to notify you that beginning in early March, I began releasing findings of a statewide audit that I was asked to conduct of the 2020 Washington State general election that includes significant evidence of irregularities and suspected crimes occurring in the November 2020 Skagit County general election, including positions in your city government. While my attached reports dated March 21st, 2021, and slideshow dated April 30th, 2021 contain many details about the substance of my findings, I have also publicly released 4 video summaries with additional information and evidence that you can review on my website, codyhart.org, and on my YouTube channel at the link below. Among the overwhelming evidence I have disclosed, you will find I have exposed the concern that hundreds of ballots were created illegally in Skagit County weeks after the close of the election by election officials. Evidence of the illegal deletion of months of video surveillance of election officials handling ballots, evidence of statistically impossible ballot results by county election officials, and evidence that over 1,000 ballots were inexplicably picked up from an Anacortes drop box, even though those same voters, many from Mount Vernon, have confirmed they dropped their ballot off in a different city drop box. Again, many in Mount Vernon and not in Anacortes. Although the evidence and accusations of election fraud may seem astounding, To date, not a single official at the county, state, or federal level have disputed my findings, made a statement in opposition to my findings, and it is generally accepted that fraud did occur, bringing into question the validity of multiple elected officials at the local, state, and federal level. Furthermore, in an upcoming video release, I will provide additional evidence that over the last several months, investigations have been opened into officials at the highest levels of government, including many at agencies you have entrusted to oversee and manage elections for your city's residents. While I'm writing to inform you of what has been found, I'm also writing to request your assistance restoring the integrity of our election system by taking meaningful actions to address my findings, as well as by requesting official action by you as an elected official to correct what has been found and restore the public's faith in our democracy. Lastly, I am writing to notify you I will be releasing a report to the public in October of what agency and each agency and elected official in your city has done in support of the goal to restore election integrity in our state, so the public can better understand your commitment to our American democracy and your effectiveness as representative of the people you are in a position to represent. Thank you in advance for your assistance, and I will make myself available for any questions you might have. Cody Hart. Those are all of the written comments.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is if anyone's here, welcome to come on up to the podium, please. If you would please state your name and city of residence. Comments about 3 minutes or so.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Rose Cole, and I'm in Mount Vernon. I moved here when I was in high school, and I have everyone has a unique story, but I will say that in high school I was an honor student and a cheerleader and all part of the community, and then 20 years ago I became homeless for 4 years. So I have truly had a foot on each side of the fence. What I'm about to say, I'm not nervous to say, I just feel so passionate, I just trying to be calm and concise. The first situation that I'm aware of, I wasn't there personally, but I know of it personally, firsthand being told to me. And it was a man who owned his home and was a very lonely man. His wife had passed, and so he let people move in. They fell into domestic violence. They kicked him out of his own home. He now lives at Logan Creek, and that woman, I don't even know her, but she lives in his home along with another squatter. Now I'll tell you what happened to me personally, and that's what inspired me to be here, because it was firsthand. I live in Summer Glen Apartments, and this was this last week, and I'm a very active member of the community in many capacities, and I'm a helper person and a supporter and stuff. And I got a phone call in the middle of the night, and from one of my neighbors. She is mildly handicapped, and she said, "Stephanie, the police are here. Can I come to your house?" And I mean, it was, for me, it's the middle of the night. I have health issues too. It's not very easy for me to wake up. I'm going, well, of course, come over. What's going on? Well, she had invited her ex-boyfriend to come over, and then he became belligerent, and he wouldn't leave. And he said, "I won't leave until you call the police." The police came, and they had her leave her own home. What in the world is going on? He's a trespasser, and when I asked there was one particular, I think he's new on the force, because I highly respect Mount Vernon police officers. I think we've got the best in the county, and I mean that from my heart. But I said, so it was a new police officer, and I said, "What's going on?" Well, she invited him in. Well, have you ever invited someone over to your house and said, "Come for dinner," and maybe they lingered and it's about your bedtime, and you say, "Okay, let's wrap it up"? So they said because she invited him in, that he had the right to choose when to leave her house. I am appalled. And I dealt with it myself. She stayed at my house. Believe me, my apartment's small and my bed is not that big. It was very, very distressing. And the police officer, I left the door unblocked, open, because I knew they'd want to come over when it was done. And as I walked out the door, this person who'd been in her home, I said, Ed, don't come back. Because you know she's not, he thinks she's all alone. She's not all alone. You know I watch out for her. And so the officer, this new officer, looked at me and goes, Stephanie, you just made things 10,000 times worse. I'm just kind of looking at him. I didn't say anything else, you know. All I said is tell the guy, you know, I'm here for this woman and don't think that nobody's watching. So I don't understand this policy. It makes no sense to me, and I think it needs to be addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, any other community comments this evening before we move on? All right, thank you so much. Item C tonight is council member comments. Any council member comments? Okay, seeing none, I don't have a mayor's report prepared, so we'll go on to item E, which is committee agenda requests. Any committee agenda requests tonight? Okay, we have no unfinished business in our agenda under new business. Item A is a public hearing regarding concurrency exemption for Cedardale Road. And then there's a file number, which I could read while Mary Ann's coming up. So this is file number ENGR 21-0148. Mary Ann Manville-Ailes is here from Development Services to present. So I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ann.
Good evening, council members. Just to introduce myself, I am Mary Ann Manville-Ailes. I think this is the first time that I have been in front of you guys since I started with the city in January. So some of you I know because I have been consulting for the city for about 15 years, and others of you I am meeting for the first time. So it's nice to meet you. So we have three things tonight on our agenda. The first one is all right, we're going to go with the other one. The first one is a concurrency exemption for Cedardale Road. And we are requesting council approval of a resolution to grant the concurrency exemption, and it is at the intersection of Cedardale Road and Anderson Road. Is the roundabout there. I think you're all probably pretty familiar with that. And this came to light as part when Dimensional Communication applied for a new building on property that they had purchased down there. And so here is just a little overview of where the area that we're talking about, and we have an aerial also that shows you that area. And then this is from the concurrency report that was prepared by TSI, showing the type of street that it is and the types of streets that are around it. And so the first thing is, what is a concurrency exemption? Well, in Chapter 1410 of the Municipal Code, we have which is the concurrency code. It contains an exemption that allows City Council to grant a development an exemption from all or any portion of the concurrency LOS requirements upon adopting a finding that the development proposal provides an overriding public benefit. And so what we're requesting tonight is an exemption from the actual roadway improvements. This is not an exemption from the traffic impact fees. There has been some confusion about that, I understand, and so I just want to make it clear that that there is no mechanism for waiving the traffic impact fees. And if somebody was to come to you and ask for a waiver of the traffic impact fees, and you were to agree to that, then we would have to find some other fund in the city to pay those impact fees. They don't go away. They have to be paid by someone. So that's just some clarification, because that had been a little bit of confusion, and I just want to make sure everybody understands it. So what we're talking about tonight are just frontage improvements. They're not. So concurrency is made up of a couple different things: impact fees and frontage improvements. We're talking about the frontage improvement aspect of it tonight. So, what on the Cedardale Road? What makes this project different than the standard? Well, the first is that council approved a concurrency requirements for this area long before the roundabout was considered, and came up with what we were going to do. And then along came the roundabout. It was constructed, and it was built based on the constraints of the available area, and it did not include the concurrency requirements that had been adopted by council previously. And so now we have this situation that we as a city have created. And when dimensional communications came in with their proposal, it illuminated this situation that we had created. And so the city is here before you. We brought this forward to you. It's associated with the project just because that was the one that brought it to light, but we are here with it, asking for this situation to be corrected. There's limited, if any, foot traffic in the area that would benefit from any of the improvements, and the proposal, the dimensional communications proposal would only generate 11 p.m. peak hour trips, and there's no level of service deficiencies that would be associated with the project. So our suggested condition of approval is to exempt the applicant from having to construct a paved shoulder or sidewalk to accommodate pedestrians along Cedardale Road frontage through the roundabout to connect with the existing sidewalk on Anderson Road. The staff findings are that the applicant has completed the procedural steps, and the concurrency exemption resolution before council complies with the Mount Vernon Municipal Code, and as such, the staff recommends approval of the Cedardale Road Concurrency Exemption. And that's all I have for you.
Okay. Do you have any questions for staff before we open a public hearing regarding this concurrency exemption? Okay. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing regarding the concurrency exemption for 1220 Anderson Road. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing regarding concurrency exemption. All right, questions for the staff on this particular item?
Now, looking at the layout in that area, it only makes sense to make this exemption.
Second.
Oh, is that? Mark, if you wanted to make a motion, it would be Resolution 996.
Okay, I'll move for the adoption of Resolution 996. I was going to let other people have an opportunity to speak, but
I think Gary's ready.
I'm ready.
Gary, is that a
It's been a lot. This has been a long project, so it's
Okay.
Makes sense.
nice to move it along.
This will be a second from Gary? All right, any other comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, thank you. All right, item B tonight is also a public hearing regarding concurrency exemption for MV28 LLC, and Marianne is here to present this as well. Marianne?
So the second that we have is similar to the first. It's a concurrency exemption. And again, we're asking council to approve a resolution to grant the concurrency exemption. It's for Riverbend Road frontage improvements. It's at the western edge of the city, and it's to support a new 160-stall RV resort. It's my understanding that there was some overall interest in just the project in general. And so I'm going to just give you a quick background on what's happened and where we're at on the project, just so that everybody knows what that is before we start this project. And so in 2017, there was a comprehensive plan amendment for this property to change it from general commercial to public, and that went all the way through the Planning Commission public hearing. And after that public hearing, they pulled it off of coming before council. They brought it back again in 2018, and this time went all the way through, and it was approved by council to change the comprehensive plan designation. Then in 2019, they came in and they asked for the property to be rezoned from C2 to public. And the reason that all this happened was because the public zone is the only zone where we allow RV parks and resorts in the city, and so that was what the purpose for the applicant to go through that process. And both of those were council actions, and so those are, that might be where you all first became familiar with the project. So late in the fall of 2020, we received an application for a CUP for an RV park, because under our code, RV parks are required to get CUPs, which is a conditional use permit. And in addition to the CUP permit, there was site plan approval and a shoreline substantial development permit, because it's just a teeny sliver of the property is located in the shoreline jurisdiction, and also the environmental review. So on April 9th, 2021, the final SEPA determination was issued with 12 mitigation measures. And I'm going to read one of the mitigation measures to you, because I understand there's some interest in that. And that is, per request from the Parks Department in their January 20th, 2021 email, the applicant will provide a public pedestrian easement over the sidewalks in the resort, and a trail easement to connect from the end of the sidewalk to the property line to the north. That was a SEPA condition, and the SEPA was not appealed, and the appeal period expired and was no appeals. Then we went to the hearing examiner to hear the conditional use permit application. That happened on June 10th of this year, and we had that hearing. The hearing examiner prepared a hearing examiner decision, which was in your packet, and the appeal period on that has also lapsed. They approved the conditional use permit and the site plan for the RV park. I do have a copy of the approved site plan. If anyone has an interest in looking at it, I'm happy to provide that to you. And that was on June 10th. We had the hearing examiner's decision came out on June 25th, and June 25th. And then on June 25th, that we also issued the shoreline substantial development determination, and that was sent to the Department of Ecology, because after we issue our approval, Department of Ecology has another 21-day appeal period that it has to go through, and they're just about done with that. I think Friday that is up. So that all of those processes were either hearing examiner or administrative processes. And so the next step that the project will be taking is they will be applying for their building permits and their construction permits, and those permits are also administrative permits. So that's kind of where the project is in a giant nutshell. If anybody has any specific questions on it, I would be happy to answer any of those.
Just real quick, when you say they're building permits or construction permits, are we talking about fill and grade permits and those kind of things?
Yep.
Those haven't been issued yet?
No,
They will be shortly.
we haven't seen that. We have not seen the full construction drawings yet. We've seen the site plan approval level drawings.
Okay, so they've got a little bit of work to do before.
Yep,
we
they're
issue
it's my understanding that their engineers in the process of putting all of that stuff together, and we are. I'm not exactly sure where they're at in the process, but I mean, I think that it will be ready probably fallish, I think, is what
Okay.
what
Thank
we
you.
kind of are hearing.
Go ahead, Richard. Oh, sorry.
So, as of today, then, they have a legally binding requirement through the SEPA mitigation measure to provide easement, a legally binding easement for a trail they construct on their property from a paved trail from the south end to the north end of the lot. And so that's all signed, sealed, delivered, and the appeals process won't change that, and that will happen as the course of this process.
That is correct, and just so that you know, all of the appeal periods for this, with the exception of the shoreline appeal period, have lapsed. But this requirement was a SEPA condition, and the SEPA appeal period has long since lapsed.
Okay. And hooking up to the trail on the north end should be pretty easy. Is that requirement theirs or ours?
So there is already right now an easement, there's a little narrow strip of land that is Wells Nursery between this property and the Walmart property, and there's an easement across it for for a trail. The trail on this proposal will line up, that was part of that was clarified in the conditional use from the hearing examiner, that those two easements will line up so that trail will be able to be continuous, and then that will link up with the trail that's already in place by Walmart. So we will have a trail all the way from Stewart Road down to Riverbend Road.
And so that's my last question, is the piece from the southern edge of their property across Riverbend Road, across the elevation grade of the dike or around the elevation grade of the dike and into our existing trail system, that would be our responsibility?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks for answering my question.
Certainly.
Mary?
Yes, I know you know that I'm very interested in this project. We've had
I
many
do.
conversations, and I appreciate them all. So I will always be looking at this because I work currently for Wells Nursery, you know that, and I just want that to be publicly known. So I do have concerns about, as we've discussed, water encroachment into where we farm. So I appreciate the due diligence that's been done and the explanations that I've received from people that are significantly more intelligent than I am when it comes to that type of thing. So I realize this is a good project. I just want everyone to realize that I'm watching it very closely because it is of concern to me personally. But thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before Mary Ann continues and then we do a public hearing? Okay.
All right, well, so that brings us to tonight. And tonight, we are here for a concurrency waiver, which again is a council decision. And here is the project site. As you can see, it is really long and gets really, really narrow up at the very northern end. It's really hard to even show on a map. And then here is an aerial photograph of the property. And here is the street classification. And interestingly enough, the Riverbend Road isn't even is not one of the, obviously it's not one of the arterials. It's just a small road, so it doesn't even make the hot colors. It has to be gray and boring. So again, here's the discussion about what a concurrency exemption is from 1410, and we looked at that before, so I'm not going to read that to you again. And so then what makes this development different? Well, the proposed RV resort is located at the western limits of the city, and the properties between the city limits and Freeway Drive are either all built out or are the dike. And the only access from the proposal to Riverbend Road is for emergency purposes only. So they will not be using the access from the RV resort down to Riverbend Road except for emergency access. It'll be emergency vehicles that will be using it, or in an emergency getting people in and out. And again, there's limited foot traffic in this area that would benefit from improvements, because as you're aware, it's Blade Chevy, and then there's the wrecking yard and the church. Those are the only uses that are between Freeway Drive and here. The proposal generates 0 PM peak hour trips to Riverbend Road. It generates about 43 total PM peak trips, but they all go out on College. None of them go on Riverbend Road, and there are no level of service deficiencies created with the project. So the suggested conditions of approval for this are to exempt the applicant from having to construct and install three-quarter street improvements along Riverbend Road from its intersection with Freeway Drive west to the city limits, which is approximately 1,000 feet, roughly 800 feet of that does not have adequate right-of-way, and so they would have to obtain additional right-of-way, which could be first off cost prohibitive, but also if they, it could be prohibitive if somebody doesn't want to give it. So that could be extremely difficult. That's one of the mitigating factors in this. And then the second condition would be that the applicant shall comply with the other recommendations in the traffic concurrency report, which is the payment of the traffic impact fees that we talked about previously. So the staff finds that the applicant has completed the procedural steps, and the concurrency exemption resolution before council complies with the municipal code, and staff recommends approval of the MV28 LLC Concurrency Exemption. And that's all I have for you on that one.
Any questions for Mary Ann before we open the public hearing? Okay, thank you. Then we'll open the public hearing regarding concurrency exemption for MV28 LLC RV Resort. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item? You could please state your name and city of residence and make your comments.
My name is David Christensen. I'm the architect and planner for the project. I live at 13291 Salishan Lane, Mount Vernon. I just want to say we concur with the engineering, planning, and public works recommendations that this is granted an exemption. We don't have any access here. As you know, the Riverbend Road is pretty inadequate there with the dike in the way there, so we'll have no impacts there, so we agree with the exemption, and there's no other issues we have with it.
Great, thank you.
If you have any other questions.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak? And with that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing regarding concurrency exemption. Council, if you would like to take action tonight, it would be Resolution 997. Is there any questions for staff?
There's no questions. I'll make a motion that council authorize the mayor to sign resolution 997.
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Melissa and a second by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next up is item C. It's the approval of a master plan for Skagit Valley College. And again, Mary Ann is here to present. Mary Ann.
Last but not least, the request is for the council to approve a resolution granting approval for the update of the Skagit Valley College Master Plan. It's for the Skagit Valley College campus, and it's located, the campus is located LaVenture, College Way. And it's zone public. It's approximately 96 acres, and this is the 15-year update to the college's master plan. That's kind of the cycle that the state has the colleges running on. Here is the area that is included in the college's master plan, and I just want to point out to you that the area along on the west side of LaVenture Road is being added to the college campus, and that's where the Early Learning Center is going. It's currently not part of it, but that's one of the big changes to the master plan, is that they've added that into the master plan, as well as on the east side the county's soccer fields. And that's the piece that's on the east side. On the south there, that's just white, not yellow. So the master plan update includes a number of major projects, and these are projects that were identified that are either failing now or will be within the 15-year planning period. And the projects are to consolidate Ford Hall, Cole Library, and administrative annex into one 56,300 square foot multi-purpose classroom and library building. They're proposing to renovate Roberts Hall. They're proposing to replace the diesel building with a 55,000 square foot trades building, relocating the firefighter training tower, constructing a 6,300 square foot fire station. That's a training station for the program that they have at the college. It's not like a fire station like our fire station. And the construction of a 24,700 square foot pickleball pavilion, construction of a 5,000 square foot field support facility with restrooms, locker rooms, offices, and concessions to support the ball fields and replace the existing field house uses, and construction of a 4,150 square foot childcare center. And just so that you know where things are at in the process, if you approve this tonight, tomorrow we will issue the building permit for the childcare center. It's all ready to go, just waiting on this. And the pickleball pavilion has been submitted to us and is in review. There's a picture of all of the things that they're proposing to do. It's kind of small, kind of hard to see, but if you guys are really interested, let me know, and I will get you a copy. So, master plan approval. Master plan is intended to show how proposed development will comply with development standards in the applicable zoning. It's intended to show compatibility of development within the master plan area and compatibility of anticipated uses in areas adjacent to and abutting the master plan area. It provides long-term guidance for a smaller area than a conceptual redevelopment plan, but a larger area than a detailed site plan. And that is from Mount Vernon Municipal Code 1730-130. And that pretty much is the approval criteria for master plans. Our hearing examiner, if you read his report, you'll see he struggles with our lack of good criteria. The master plans are processed as a type 4 permit, which requires public hearing at the hearing examiner with final approval by the city council. Public hearing was held on June 10th, and the hearing examiner issued his decision on June 25th, and it indicated that the proposal was consistent with the implied review criteria of Mount Vernon Municipal Code 1730-090A, and that the proposal is compatible with adjoining uses. And so staff finds that the applicant has completed the procedural steps. The hearing examiner held a public hearing and issued a decision indicating compliance with the review criteria and recommending approval, and the master plan resolution before the council complies with the Mount Vernon Municipal Code. The hearing examiner in their decision recommends approval of the Skagit Valley College Master Plan update. That's what I have.
All right, any questions for Mary Ann on this one?
You've just had a lot of talking to do tonight, haven't you, Mary Ann?
Hey, I had to once at a council meeting read a 27-page letter into the record. This is
is a piece of cake. If there's no discussion, I would like to recommend that we move to authorize the mayor to sign resolution, I believe, 998.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Motion by Mary and a second by Iris. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. I know several groups are very excited about this, including childcare, which will be wonderful to have those permits issued, and the pickleball people who are anxiously awaiting.
Well, the pickleball people got to get their stuff turned back in.
Note.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, item D tonight is a bid award for Freeway Drive Improvements Project. That's Cameron Way to College Way. Bill Bullock, our city engineer, is here to present. Bill, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, looks like our luck in bidding projects is continuing. So, this project, as you know, I was a little worried about advertising a project this late in the season, which is usually quite late. We got 4 solid bids. All of them were within $70,000 of each other, which is really tight. 2 of them were within $300 of each other. So we got some really good bids. The engineer's estimate for this project was $2,089,000 and some change, and our low bid was with SRV Construction at $2,005,000. So we're really excited to have them. We can start. With approval, we'll likely start the project around August 16th that week. It takes a little while to get all the federal requirements and stuff in place for the contractor to be able to start. But with that, we will make every effort we can to finish the project before the end of the season. I believe SRV will as well. But we also have some contingency plans if we can't finish things up before October 30th. But with that, if council has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and we would recommend awarding the construction project to SRV Construction.
All right, questions for Bill?
Bill, I just want to say thanks for all your hard work on this. This is going to be really exciting.
It's going to be a cool project.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, thank you.
If anybody has any other comments, I'll make a motion that council award the construction bid to SRV Construction.
Okay.
I had another question, if that's okay. I mean, just, do we need to do the second first, or how does that work? Does it matter?
I'll second it, and then we can have
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you.
Great, go ahead.
And this is really just for my own
Yes, ma'am.
understanding. When you look at the bid, I appreciate getting all the bids so that we can look at them. There's some things that are so different, I mean, so significantly different in one bid to the other, certain line items. Does that ever cause you any concern?
So it can, it kind of depends. Different contractors, I'll say, load a bid differently than others at times. For instance, there are times where contractors, in order to kind of get that low bid, will give us mobilization for $1, which is typically 8% of the entire construction project-ish in there. I have taken a look at this carefully with PBS Engineering Environmental, and we've kind of figured out where the risks are and which areas we have some flexibility in as well. And with that, I believe those risks are manageable. I would not expect, like for instance, paving. We received our paving from Lakeside really at cost this year for a paving program at $78 a ton. SRV is charging us about $118 a ton for paving, which is not an abnormal markup. As an example, P&P Construction did the Little Mountain parking lot project, charged $134 a ton. So they, like I said, they load things differently at times. But we didn't find anything to be exorbitantly out of our expectation. Sometimes it does worry you that a bid's been, either a unit price has been underbid, or you have misjudged something that you don't know is an issue at this time. Like lots of times if you have a removal for certain structures and obstructions, like boulders, for instance, I've done in some projects, and we think there's 5 boulders, and a guy investigates and says there's 40 boulders, and so he says, okay, price per boulder is now $50,000 a boulder, and sure enough, he's going to walk away with a windfall. We don't have any risks like this on this project, we don't believe. And yeah, I think we'll be able to,
Thank you.
with good management, be able to keep the project on task.
Appreciate that, Bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Bill, we were marking that it's 78 degrees up here and we're all kind of hot and sweaty. Okay, there is a motion and a second. Are there any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item E is an approval of a sole source purchase. And again, Bill Bullock is here to present this item. Bill?
Okay, thank you. So this has similarities to the sole source purchase we did last year with the treatment plant with the flight pumps. This is a little bit different. So our DAFT facility, which is a thickener facility in the treatment plant, similar to a clarifier. I better get this right, sorry, hold on. The backflow control assembly. I'm sorry, there's a lot of components to this, but backflow control assembly is a component in addition to the drive shaft of the DAFT thickener. And the thickener basically thickens sludge so we can pull sludge out of the effluent and clarify things before we send it out into the Skagit River. And this has a, it's not a gasket, it's sorry, I'm blanking, but basically it helps keep the oil in the system.
Got a seal in there.
Thank you, that's what I was looking for. So anyway.
It's too hot in here, Bill.
Yes, ma'am, it is. So, in this piece, rather than being a part that you can swap out and maintain, is actually integral to the assembly itself. They've lost that, and so we are actually losing lubricant fluid from inside this assembly. So it is now at a stage where it's going to wear out likely very quickly. It just with the whole nature of where we're at, this is a long lead item, approximately 12 weeks or maybe more to get this manufactured. And shipped to us, and so we can replace this assembly before it fails. It's not at an emergency state yet. If it does actually fail, we do have access to some temporary bypasses for this that we can get, but you don't want to run those for weeks either if you can help it. Those are simply a stopgap emergency procedure. So we have already ordered this part, and so now we need to pay for it, but we ordered it because we want to get that lead time gone. But when this comes in, our own maintenance folks have the expertise and capability. It is a West Tech, is that right? Yes. West Tech is the sole proprietor of this facility from 1988. This part, we've gotten a 30-year life out of this assembly, so it is also at the end of its life cycle as well. Excuse me. And that's kind of it. There is no other company that makes a replacement part for this, so it's largely the reason why it's a sole source. Then we need to go through that process to get permission to purchase.
Okay, so this does require a resolution because of sole source, so this would be resolution 999. Is there any questions for Bill on this item?
No, I just want to clarify, Bill, we've gotten a 30-year lifespan out of this valve.
Yeah, about 30, 35 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
it's
the
been,
next question
I
is
understand it's been in
relevant, which was,
service
could we
to
send this one
88,
off,
so
have it rebuilt, and have it as a backup? If we're getting 30, 35 years out of it, it doesn't make sense to do that.
it's not going to be a backup. And it's an expensive enough part, and because it has a rather long lifespan, there's not really a reason to get a second one as a backup, because we wouldn't expect to replace it for another 30 or 40 years after this, so.
Right,
So I move the adoption of Resolution 999.
yes.
I'll second.
Thank you.
However, for the procedure, I'm not sure about this, so I'll look for some guidance here. I'm not sure if I spotted a potential typo. Second paragraph of the resolution, whereas, about the third line down on that paragraph, I think it says the wastewater treatment plant. It might meant to say plant, perhaps? Plant?
Sorry, where's that again?
Second paragraph, whereas, on the resolution.
Should say wastewater treatment plant.
Ah,
not
yes, that would be
My copy
correct.
says plants, I'm not sure if that was.
Oh, yeah, that should say plant.
Okay, either way, I'll still second the motion.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spell check.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a motion by Mark, a second by Juan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Item F tonight is the approval of an agreement with Washington Conservation Corps, and this is Blaine Chesterfield, our engineering manager. Blaine.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. First off, I'll start off by reading the recommended action for the record. Staff recommends that the council approve the detention pond maintenance interagency agreement with Washington State Department of Ecology to have the Washington Conservation Corps perform vegetation maintenance on drainage facilities. The agreement would be for up to 8 weeks of Washington Conservation Corps time with costs not to exceed $37,760. As many of you know, we've been working with the Washington Conservation Corps since 2015 and had a very successful relationship with them. Their costs are subsidized by the state, so we get a good deal. They're hard workers, and they do a lot of great handwork in areas where it's hard to get into for us on our detention ponds. They come with a supervisor, 5 crew members, a crew rig, all the hand tools they need, and work on for a drainage facility maintenance. The Washington Conservation Corps Community Service Program provides the city with an opportunity to complete some of our required work on these facilities while keeping the costs down. And in conclusion, staff recommends that the council authorize the mayor to sign the interagency agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology for up to 8 weeks of Washington Conservation Corps crew time. And I will add one other thing, since we are having wildfires have picked up now, is that it's up to 8 weeks. They do get pulled off for wildfires, and when they do, then we have limited access to them at that time. Like, for instance, this year we've gotten about 4 of those 8 weeks out of them. I'm not sure that we'll see them again this year, but we'll see. So.
Okay. Any questions for Blaine on this?
But just to verify, we only pay by the week, so we don't
Yes.
pay if that happens.
Yes.
But I would make a motion to approve the agreement with Ecology because it's just a great group and great efficiency and also job training for people. They learn a lot on the job. So good transition process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so motion by Rich and a second by Iris. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing that to us way back in 2015 and getting those on board every year. So good work. All right, item G is an approval of an agreement with Nookachamps, L.L.C. Our city attorney, Kevin Rogerson, is here with this item. Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you is a letter and an agreement, which is called an assignment contract. It's spelled out in much more detail in your memo, but to make a long story short, in 2008, the city entered into a transaction with Nookachamps LLC, and that was a transaction which we conveyed property that we owned in fee adjacent to the Skagit River, which was wetland, so it was undeveloped land. And in return, Nookachamps used that land to create what was called a wetland mitigation bank. And that wetland mitigation bank is a regulatory bank in which they put a conservation easement over that property, and then they enhance the functions and values of that wetland mitigation. In exchange for that, they give credits to developers to degrade other wetlands in other areas. It's a bank that's regulated by other entities, not the city, Army Corps of Engineers in the state. So in exchange for that property and converting that property into wetland mitigation bank, the city got a dike on Hogue Road and it got a public trail. And in addition, the contract indemnified and defended the city that if there was a third-party claim as a result of somebody being hurt or damaged, property being damaged on the dike and the trail, and it was a result of their negligence in construction, that they would indemnify us and hold us harmless. That was basically the only obligation in contract left. So Nookachamps LLC, which wishes to convey in a separate private transaction its property to another entity, along with many other properties, in a complex agreement that the city is not a party to. And a condition to that is this new company, RES, would be obligated for that contract. That's the assignment, is that Nookachamps would be off the hook and RES would be the one we would look to for that indemnity promise. In the contract, the city cannot reject any assignment without cause. We have to have a reason why, I would have to have a reason grounded in fact and law why we would not allow such assignment to occur. RES seems to be, after the close of this transaction, not only in an equal financial position to perform that promise, but in a better one. But we did negotiate that they'd also give us commercial general liability insurance, which Nookachamps did not have. So frankly, in my opinion, as your lawyer, we're in a better financial position if anything ever happens and somebody gets harmed on the dike and the trail, and it's as a result of their negligence. So we recommend that you approve the letter that says that we will consent to the agreement, and once that transaction takes place, we will assign the assignment contract. It's kind of a chicken and the egg. You don't want the contract signed until their transaction takes place.
All right, any questions for Kevin on this?
Thank you for explaining it very well.
Yeah, it's pretty good, actually.
I would, if there's no other questions, I would like to move that we grant the request for consent and agreement. Oh my
Second.
goodness, to consent and assignment and assumption of contract, that's a lot.
Second.
All right, motion by Mary, a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. That completes our agenda items for tonight. I'll ask our city attorney if there's a need for an executive session.
Yes, I invite the mayors and members of City Council to now meet in executive session for a period of 35 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters relating to enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation to which the city, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to either result in adverse legal or adverse financial consequence to the city pursuant to RCW 423110 subsection 1I. We do expect to take final action following the executive session.
All right, with that, we'll be adjourned into executive session at 8:09. The HVAC's broke. I'd like to call the city council meeting back into session. It's July 14 of 2021. The time is now 8:38. I'm going to ask our city attorney to introduce an item, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. We have convened our executive session, and before you tonight is a decision that the City of Mount Vernon has to make regarding a Chapter 11 bankruptcy that has been filed by Purdue Pharma LP and a plan of reorganization. After about a year and a half of extensive negotiations and months-long mediation conducted by two nationally renowned mediators, Purdue has proposed a plan of reorganization that has been sent out along with a form of ballot and extensive disclosure statement involving a reorganization which would create a trust called the National Opioid Abatement Trust to collect and distribute funds to be used for the abatement state by state of the opioid impacts, including impacts felt by the city of Mount Vernon. You have hired Keller Rohrbach, attorneys, excellent attorneys, class action attorneys to represent the city in your lawsuit in which Purdue Pharma is one of many defendants. As you know, once a defendant files for bankruptcy, your litigation freezes. It is recommended by your outside counsel to approve the reorganization plan, and if you were to follow that recommendation, I would invite a motion to direct the city attorney to vote yes to the reorganization plan. Your outside counsel believes that this is the greatest likelihood that you will see the most funds to help the impacts felt by the city of Mount Vernon.
All right, any questions for our city attorney on this item?
I would move that council approve the reorganizational plan and authorize the city attorney to approve as necessary the plan.
Second.
All right, motion by Mark and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We've completed our agenda items, and now we'll stand adjourned at 8:41.
We got some things.